Hello students, welcome to this session of web technology. We are currently having unit 5 under video sessions. So in that till 4th part we have seen many things regarding AngularJS, its introduction, MC architecture, then the directives, expressions, controllers, plus many tools like filters, tables, modules, forms, includes views, scopes and services that all are dealing with the AngularJS. So in this session we are going to see dependency injection, custom directives and internationalization. So in dependency injection we will see first it is a part of service. In last session we have gone through the services that are provided by AngularJS. So here the services are related with dependency injection as well. So in this session we are going to see the dependency injection. So the what dependency injection is? Actually dependency injection provides a built-in mechanism for dividing the application into various types of components. As a dependency, these components can be injected into each other. Actually, dependency injection is a software design pattern in which components are given their dependencies instead of hard coding them with the component. And in easy words, dependency injection is a pattern of software design which indicates that how the components obtain holds of their dependencies. In this, the components are assigned their dependencies rather than coding them within the component. And when an application is break into modules, then it becomes easier to reuse, configure and testing the application components. So AngularJS provides a built-in mechanism for dependency injection, and this mechanism will divide the application into various types of components, and these components can be injected into each other. Okay, so simplest thing is when an application is broken into modules, it becomes easier to reuse, configure and testing. Okay, so this concept is about the AngularJS dependency, and it is the process of injecting dependent functionality at runtime into modules. Okay. Then it helps in achieving reusability of code. Suppose you have a functionality that can use at multiple places in a single application. So better to define a central service for it and then inject into different modules of an application as a dependency. And this helps in making components reusable, maintainable and testable. AngularJS provides a supreme dependency injection mechanism. And why actually dependency injection is used? The things include the Angular dependency injection makes an application modularized. We can reuse components of any application, and it makes easier to test components. Also it makes easier to configure components of application. So the components became reusable, maintainable, testable and configurable with the help of dependency. So there are some core components which are injected as a dependency in one another, and these core components are value, factory, service, provider, and constant. We'll see one by one what these five components are actually working for. So first is value. Value is a simple JavaScript object and it is used to pass values to controller during the config phase. So value, it is an object and it can be a number, it can be a string or a JavaScript object. It is used to pass the value to controller, service or factorize in config or run phase. So the value function is used on module to define values. It consists of two parameters. The first parameter is name of value and the second parameter is assigned value. Now these values can be referred by their names in factories, services and controllers. So this is about the value. We'll see how to define it in your code block. First, we'll define a module with a variable main app and angular.module method. We have created the module, defined the module with angular module like a main app and then passed an empty array to it. Then we'll create a value object as default input and pass it to data. So how to create it? We can use main app dot value. Okay, so we have created value object with the name default input. Okay, so we have taken that first parameter as default input and second 5. So as told, the value object contains first parameter is the name of value and second parameter is value for that name. Okay, so here the name is default input and the value assigned to it is 5. Okay, so now we want to inject the value in controller using its name, that is default input. So how to inject it? We'll see. The main app dot controller and the controller name we have used here is calc controller. Then the function is having scope parameter comma default input, that is the value object. Okay, and dollar scope dot number is equal to default input. So we have injected that value in controller with the name default input. This is the syntax how to inject the value into the controller. Now second part is factory. Factory is a function which is used to return value. It creates value on demand whenever a service or controller requires, and it normally uses a factory function to calculate and return the value. So the factory function is used for returning a value and the value is created as per the requirement of service or any controller. Okay, and we will use it with the factory method. Then service. So service is a singleton JavaScript object containing a set of functions to perform certain tasks. So it contains a set of functions, set of methods to perform any specific task. The services method is used to define the services, and These services can be then injected into controllers. This is about the service method. Next comes provider. Provider is used by AngularJS internally to create services, factory, etc. during the config phase. We have to remember all these things that we are seeing, like value, factory, service, provider and constant. These are the core components for dependency injection and that are related to the config phase. Next, fifth component is constant. Constants are used to pass value at config phase, considering the fact that value cannot be used to be passed during config phase. Okay, so use of config phase, the values are passed by the constants. So regarding dependency injection, there may be question in exam. Define the dependency injection in AngularJS. It can be asked for 4 marks. At that time you have to define what is the dependency injection in AngularJS and why it is used, or a basic use of that, and we have to use and explain these 5 core components of dependency injection. Part is custom directive. In previous video sessions we have seen many directives, okay, that we use with div tag. So in this session we are going to see the custom directives. The custom directives are nothing but the directives that can be made by the user for any functionality. Okay, so custom directives used to extend the functionality of HTML. Custom directives are defined using directive function. Then the custom directive simply replaces the element for which it is activated. Okay, what it will do? It will simply replace the element for which it is defined the directive. Okay. There may be question in your exam, like write a short note on custom directives in AngularJS. So at that time you have to specify the answer with its use, like the functionality of HTML can be extended using the custom directives, and the directive function is used to define the custom directive. The elements for which the custom directives are activated are replaced by the custom directives. Now, AngularJS application during bootstrap finds the matching element and do one-time activity using its compile method. Then process the element using link method. So basically 2 methods are compulsory here, that is compile and link method. Okay. So while making the custom directives in AngularJS, there are so many things that are undergone, like creating directive, okay, then defining the directive object, how to signify that directive in element directive, okay, then using template that will replace the complete element, scope is used, compile is used, and link method is also used to link elements with scope and forget the specific data. So we'll see the types of element that are provided by AngularJS in custom directive. First is element directive. The directives activate when a matching element is encountered. Second is attribute. Directives activate when a matching attribute is encountered. To keep in mind, the element directives will activate when matching element is encountered. Attribute directives will get activated after matching attribute is encountered. Third is CSS. Matching CSS style is encountered, then the directive activates. Okay. And fourth, after getting matching comment, this directive will be activated. So the names are given according to the type of pattern matching is encountered. Okay. So first we will see how to understand the custom directive, and as told, we have to undergo many things while executing this custom directives program. So first part will be defining custom HTML tags. So simple tags we can use are like student name equals to Mahesh, and close that student tag, break, and another student tag we have used is with the name Piyush. Okay, so define custom directive to handle above custom HTML tags. How we will define that custom directive? Like main app dot directive, we have passed parameters. First is student and second is function. So with the example we will see that we have created the HTML script, and the head section we have defined the title AngularJS custom directives. The head section is closed here with the title, and in body we have given heading like AngularJS sample application. So this application is made with the we have included ng-app directive with the name main app, ng controller with the name student controller, then the student name and with two entries, that is first for name Mahesh and second for name Piyush we have used. Now we have included script source and provided link for that source. Then in the main script we can see we have created the main app variable. Okay, we have defined the custom directive here for that main app. Okay, using Angular module we have created the module here. So main app we have created and passed empty array to it. Then for student function we are created the custom directive with the name student, like main app dot directive. We have to pass the parameters student and function. Okay, and variable directive we have created with element directive. Okay, next how to use that element directive, like directive dot restrict equals to e. So this is the element directive. Okay, so first line before that was variable directive equals to empty bracket. Okay, so that will define the directive object. Second, directive dot restrict equals to e. So this is the element directive. Next is directive dot template, and in that template we have used student dot name, roll number, student dot roll number, and directive dot scope equals to, in that student will be equals to name. So what this template will do, it will replace the complete element with its text. Okay, so after watching that output you can get the idea, but how it is made in code, that we are going to see. So here we have used directive dot compile. Okay. So directive dot compile, and we have used the function with two parameters. First is element and second is attributes. Okay. So Here we have created the variable with the link function, and there also we have passed the function with three parameters, that is the dollar scope, element and attributes. In that, the element.html, it will have the value for which we have entered the data, that is student name and its student roll number. So the variable link function, what it will do, it will link each element with scope to get the element specific data. So how that scope is used, we can see like student, okay, plus dollar scope dot student dot name. Okay, so scope is joined here or linked here, plus roll number, and how that roll number is displayed or get with the plus dollar scope dot student dot roll number plus. Okay, so this will link each element with scope for getting the element specific data. Then you can see there is a return link function and return directive function. So return link function statement will return after executing this particular task, and return directive is also given for the same task to return by the directive page. Okay, that is the main part of the custom directive. So with this you can see the next part of controller, how that controller is used here. So we have defined a controller with name student controller, passed a function parameters, that is dollar scope, and with dollar scope we are providing some details with the student name or that particular student object, okay, that we have already created. So you can see with the dollar scope we have used dollar scope dot Mahesh, and simply opening and closing brackets we have used. This will define the directive object. So now the object is Mahesh here. Then dollar scope dot Mahesh dot name equals to Mahesh Parashar, and dollar scope dot Mahesh dot roll number equals to 1. So this particular information is stuck to the object Mahesh. Then for second we have used the same details with the name Piyush. Okay, and same details are given for that particular name, that is Piyush dot name, Piyush dot roll number, and the particular values are defined. So this is the main controller part in this custom directives example. Now the script ended, body and HTML tags are closed. Okay, so this will be your output. Okay, we have provided that heading AngularJS sample application, and it will be displayed as student name, roll number, and for the second student name and roll number. Okay, so this is how the custom directives are working in AngularJS. Okay, so mainly as told, they are for defining the functionality of HTML using the directives, okay, and using that directive function. Okay, so that will be activated or replaced by the custom directives. And then the most important part related to AngularJS is internationalization. Okay, the internationalization is nothing but the process which enhances the planning and implementing the specific products and services, so that internationalization process is nothing but translation or localization enablement. Okay, so this is step by step what actually internationalization is. The 4 marks question can be asked in your university exam. Okay, like what is internationalization, and explain various types of filters which support the internationalization. So the AngularJS supports inbuilt internationalization for 3 types of filters, that are currency, date and numbers. Okay, so in your 4 marks questions answer you have to define the definition of internationalization and which filters are making it possible, that you have to define. So there is a situation for each and every software when internationalization becomes compulsory. Sometimes it happens because of regional specific clients, or when the software has to be delivered to users in many countries. So in AngularJS, some built-in filters support the concept of internationalization, like the data, currency and the number filters have built-in support. Okay, so how to use these filters, that we will see. By default it handles the local of the browser. Okay, we need to incorporate corresponding JS according to local of the country. If you want to deliver the software product in many countries at the same time, then you have to consider the locality of that particular country, and according to that language you have to deliver your software product. Okay, so by default it handles the local of browser that you are going on the working. And we can see, for example, to use Danish local, you can use the script as script source, and at the source link you can see at the last, after giving the version, angular local underscore da dash dk dot js. Okay, so this is the link if you want to use the Danish local. Okay, so particularly it is taken with the browser, so that the software or the things that you want to deliver to the country, that will be having enough conversation if that is made in local of the country. We will consider one simple example for internationalization. For example, we have created the HTML script. In the body tag we have defined ng app with the name main app, and ng controller with name student controller. So as told before, it is made with some filters that are built in. So we have defined here some expressions like fees. The fees is about in currency. Second, admission date. So the filter will be date, and close that directive tag. Then we have included the script source. Okay, so simple link only we have provided. Okay, then script, another script we have started for the for creating module of your ng app. Okay, so main app is started with Angular module, and created the main app and passed an empty array to it. Then we have defined the controller, main app dot controller, with the name student controller and pass the function with scope parameter. Okay, so with scope we will be defining the objects that we have used, or that we have defined with the filters, like $scope.fees equals to 100, $scope.admission date equals to new date. Okay, so this is the main code that is shown in the purple color here, and plus the in above lines in body tag we can see it is shown in blue color. So this is the main thing, how to include your internationalization filters in your coding block. Okay, so how it will be shown, like we have used that browser's language, we have not defined, that is by default taken as US, so it is taking value as $100.00 by default, and Feb 23 2018 as the date of particular application. Okay, so this is about internationalization. In next session we will see Node.js and structs. Okay, so we have considered and completed first part of fifth unit, that is AngularJS. That was very important part, and all the things that we have seen with AngularJS are recently trending in market, so very much useful if you are going to these video sessions plus extra practice that with the examples that I have provided here. Okay, and the notes are also uploaded on your Google Classroom, plus I am also sharing it via WhatsApp. Okay, so please refer those all the study materials and prepare well for your exams. Okay, so in next session we will be having a Node.js introductory part and another things that are related with Node.js. Okay, so till then revise these things that we have completed and take care. Thank you. Bye.